In previous section, we talked about the application load balancer. In this one, I would like to go through the network load balancer and classic load balancers to show you how is the configurations. They are almost the same. I mean, the network load balancer is exactly look like the application load balancer. The classic one is a little bit different. I just want to show you quickly how we can configure them pretty fast. So let's go to the AWS console to start configuring the network and classic load balancers. Here I am inside the AWS management console, and I'll go to EC2 compute part. And if you remember, we spin up the load balancers and we use the application load balancers, and you can see the type of load balancer here. I'm going to create load balancer again, and this time I'm going to show you how the network load balancer is working. I'm going to click create, and if you check here, the configuration is almost the same as the application load balancer. I put my network ELB elastic load balancer here. It's going to be internet facing, and here, if you remember, in the application load balancer we had the HTTP and HTTPS, we have TCP and TLS or secure TCP here. This is going to be on port 443, or basically the meaning of this load balancer listener is that we can use any TCP port, whatever you like. You can, for example, publish an SSH server behind this load balancer, so it's up to you. It's all TCP and it doesn't care if you just want to use HTTP or HTTPS. I would say this load balancer is exactly like application load balancer, but you can use whatever port you want in the TCP protocol. So the availability zone is the same idea. We can select all of them. You can put your tags, and I put, for example, name and my ELB or my network ELB just as an example. And I hit next for the security settings. Again, it's complaining about the lack of security because we are not using HTTPS. We have to again select a target, and I put my network ELB target here just as an example, and we can select instance or IP, and we can select the protocol I want to use and the port, and also the health check. And if you remember, there was an advanced settings for the health check. We can use the same port or we can override the port, and we have the healthy threshold and we have an unhealthy threshold and timeout and interval here. And you can hover your mouse on these ones and you can see what are the meaning of these settings. But basically it's the time, the combination of these unhealthy, healthy, timeout and interval, as we can tell the health check to check our EC2 instance or IP addresses for a while and for a number of times to see if it is healthy or if it's not. And after these number of thresholds and timeout, it can put our EC2 instance or IP addresses in a healthy state or in an unhealthy state. So I'm going to keep the default setting here, click on the next register target, and here we can basically select our EC2 instances and we can add them to this target. We don't have any EC2 instance running right now, that's why we can't see anything, and we can basically leave it as blank, and I'm going to hit next for the review and create. So if I hit close, I'm going back to my load balancers here, and I just see my application load balancer. Meanwhile, pretty fast, I'm going to create another load balancer, the classic one, to see how that one is working. Again, I'm going to click on create load balancer, and this time I'm going to use the previous generation classic load balancer. So this one is a little bit different. You should give it a name, for example, classic ELB, and you can create your VPC, which we don't have that much VPC, we have just a default one. And then it is asking us if this is an internal load balancer. The meaning of this option is if you select this one, it means your load balancer is internal. If you unselect it, it means your load balancer is internet facing, right? It's the same idea. We don't have any advanced settings. And this is the listener. With this one, you can select HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, and SSL all at the same time. So it's a kind of classic load balancer supporting almost everything. So I leave the HTTP here, go to the security group. You can select a security group for your load balancer. If you remember the last time we selected this one, the load balancer wizard one, as a security group for our load balancer, I keep this one again, and I go with the next option, which is again complaining about lack of HTTPS. We have to configure our health check, and our health check basically is a file that our health check can check to see if our server is up and running. If you remember, we create an hc.html file, and we have the advanced settings for the response, timeout, interval, unhealthy, and healthy. Again, you can hover your mouse on these information, you can see what are the details. They're almost the same, but the numbers are a little bit different. I'm going to click on next to add the EC2 instance. The difference right now between the classic load balancer and the network one is we can actually see our EC2 instances here and they are stopped, but in the network one we couldn't be able to see them although they are there in Ec2 Instance console, but because they are stopped, we cannot see them in the network load balance. But here we can see them. I can select them anyway. I keep the default settings here, and I add a tag as a name, and the name is my classic ELB. And I hit review, and these are the basic settings, and I hit on create. So I'll go back to my load balancer. I can hit close here. Well, I'm not seeing anything because I forgot to remove this filter here. I have to remove the filter. So I can see right now all of them. I have one application, one classic one, and one network one. They are almost the same right now. I explained the idea behind the load balancer for you in the previous video. We have the DNS name, so you can use this name for accessing to your load balancer. It is the same for all of them. This is for the classic one, and this is for the network load balancer. Basically, you can access all of the instances behind these load balancers. That was it. I just want to quickly show you how these load balancers are working, and the idea is the same. I'm sure that now you can work with them. Okay, see you in the next video.